Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to this edition of Weekly Roundup. My name is Siddharth Sankar, and I will be taking this session. So, in this session, we will be discussing four main news. Okay, the first is related to protection of Aravallis, and then 30th anniversary of PESA Act. The third main news is related to LAR Act effective implementation. A standing committee has given a report, okay, on Land Acquisition Act. Okay, and then the fourth news is related to ISRO's LVM-3 places Bluebird Block 2 satellite in LEO. Then we will be discussing a place in news called Nigeria, as US has launched certain strikes in this country, and then we will be discussing some of the quick updates. Okay, so without wasting any time, let us directly start. So the first main news is related to Aravallis. You might have seen that intense protests have been going on when the Ministry of Environment and Forest notified a notification saying that a definition of Aravalli was accepted after constitution of an expert committee, and when it was notified, there were certain protests. Okay, so the news is related to that only. Earlier he had said, the environment minister has said that new definition protects over 90% of the Aravalli. Okay, so basically the debate, this question has a debate of environmental conservation versus development. Okay, or the certain security aspect is also involved, because the mining of minerals for strategic and atomic minerals is also related to this, as India is heavily dependent on buying or import of critical minerals. Okay, so in all these aspects you can try to understand this topic, and strictly speaking you can correlate this topic with environment conservation topic of GS3. Okay, so first we will understand in brief, okay, that what basically is Aravalli. Okay, why this protest has been going on. So first we should know what is at the base, isn't it, that what is happening. Okay, so basically if we see this, I have already said that Supreme Court had accepted a definition of Aravalli Hills based on the expert constitution committee. Okay, now about Aravalli, it is one of the oldest mountain ranges. It is very old. Try to remember this fact that it belongs to Precambrian period. Okay, next it stretches of around 800 kilometer. Okay, and mainly in four states of Gujarat, Delhi, Haryana and Rajasthan. Okay, so basically this area, okay, this is basically Aravallis. Okay, and highest peak is Guru Shikhar in this range. Okay, so just try to remember all these kind of points. Okay, world's oldest mountain range, it belongs to Precambrian period, because the period of Himalayas can be given, or it can be said that it is newer than Himalayan ranges. So these kind of questions can be asked in the prelims examination. Okay, as prelims is coming close, you should keep an eye on these kind of things. Okay, around 800 kilometer, 750 to 800 kilometer it ranges. Okay, and four states. Okay, four states, try to remember this, including Delhi, and the highest peak is Guru Shikhar. Then what is the importance of Aravalli in this context? Why these protests have intensified, or what are the issues which environmental activists have raised? Okay, so the importance of Aravalli's rise in, basically here 4 points are given. First, it prevents desertification. Okay, so Thar desert is here, isn't it, and here Aravallis are there. So it prevents desertification to the further this side. Okay, so because of the Aravallis, the Thar desert is not coming to these stretches. This is the first one. Okay, it is also considered to be a divide between Thar desert and the Gangetic plains. Okay, so these are the Gangetic plains, isn't it? These are the Gangetic plains. This is the Thar desert, and here lies the Aravallis. So first remember it as a divide. Then nurture various sub-Himalayan rivers. Okay, so many rivers also originate near these mountain ranges. Then green lungs of Delhi. Okay, it protects from hot winds coming from the Thar desert. Again, I said that Thar desert means many of the impact of the Thar desert is not felt in the northern plains or the eastern plains because of the Aravalli hills. Then it is also very rich in minerals, and this is the main issue which is presently in the news, okay, because it is rich in minerals such as limestone, marble, copper, zinc, okay. So for sustainable mining, for mining purposes, a notification was issued, and that is what has led to these kind of news which we have been witnessing, okay. Now we will see what was the recommendation of the expert committee, okay. So there is two main things which you should keep in mind. First is they have given two definition, okay, or operational definition of Aravalli Hills and Aravalli Range. Aravalli Hills, what they have given, any landform in Aravalli districts with an elevation of 100 meters or more. So if 100 meters or more elevation is there, it would be considered as Aravalli, or the mining practices might not be done at that place. This is the first thing. Then the second is related to Aravalli Range. Two or more Aravalli hills located within the proximity of 500 meter from each other. Okay, so if there is a, so it defines both hills as well as range. So if there are two or more which is less than 500 meter, so this is known as Aravalli Range, okay. So this is the main issue which activists have been contending, that if we apply a 100 meter elevation rule, so other which are lower hills, they may not be safeguarded, okay. Earlier the Rajasthan government had a similar definition related to this, but now the issue has got very much problematic, okay. Now what was the other directions by Supreme Court in this management plan for sustainable mining? It has also said, means the committee which gave these directions or definitions to the Supreme Court to become acceptable so that policy decisions can be taken in this regard. They have also said that management plan for sustainable mining should be there, and they should be created by Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, okay. See here in this context it is very much not very important per se, but you should keep this term, management plan for sustainable mining, okay. So whenever there is a question related to mining such as rat hole mining, or even in northeastern region there are mining related questions, or sustainable development versus growth, economic growth question is there, use these terms. Management plan for sustainable mining should be established, and who can be given this? ICFRR, okay. So these ICFRE, so keep these things in mind. Now freezing of new mining leases, okay. So until preparation of new sustainable mining, new leases should not be given, okay. So you can use this in your case study also. Normally there is one question in which sustainable development aspect is being asked, okay. So these kind of initiative you can say, or in a step one you can say that management plan should be created, and second it can be freezed until and unless the plan is created. So these kind you can, in this way you can enrich your answers, especially in ethics or in questions related to environment versus development debate, okay. Now see what has happened is, yes, so there was this expert committee, and the mining especially in the Aravalli hill region are either regulated or prohibited. So the question may be asked that what are all the places or the sites at which mining is regulated, or in which cases it is prohibited, okay. So this is the main theme from which the question can be asked, okay. So for this I have kept this, okay, that where it is regulated and protection of core or inviolative areas or prohibited areas, okay. So first we will see where it is regulated. Regulated means mining is allowed subject to certain conditions, okay. Here the new leases, as you know, that it has been now restricted. For critical, strategic and atomic minerals, limited exception is allowed. Okay. For what? First is atomic minerals in the first schedule. Then critical and strategic minerals in first schedule part D. Then minerals in the schedule 7 of the MMDR Act. So keep these things in mind. For how many things it is being allowed? Critical, strategic and atomic minerals whenever it comes. So certain things are being regulated, not strictly prohibited in this aspect. Okay. National security aspect. Okay, so critical minerals, where it is? Atomic minerals, critical minerals and minerals in schedule 7 of MMDR Act. Okay, so keep these words in your mind. Okay. This is the main important thing over here. Regulation of mining only for these things are being allowed subject to certain conditions, and new mining leases are not being allowed as of now. Now, absolute prohibition zones. What are the absolute prohibition zones? Normally you keep in mind protected areas. Okay, protected areas, I tell you, tiger reserves, wildlife corridors, protected areas. Okay, then eco-sensitive zones. Okay, so it is also prohibited. Then wetlands. Wetlands till 500 meter of Ramsar sites. I have taught you that 2 new sites have been added in Ramsar sites. Banbaja, I think, Silisar Lake in Rajasthan. So if there is a Ramsar site and till 500 meter, no mining is allowed. Okay. Then buffer zone. In 1 kilometer radius of protected areas boundaries, buffer zone. Okay, not allowed. Then conservation investment means if there are areas where plantation has been done through CAMPA funds, so there also it is strictly prohibited. So keep these things in mind, that tiger reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, Ramsar sites, so these things are absolutely inviolative areas subject to certain conditions. Okay. Now we will see what are the initiatives taken for the protection of the Aravallis. So there are these initiatives. Matrivan initiative to develop 750 acre urban forest, Aravalli Green Wall project, okay, to develop greening of 5 kilometer buffer area around Aravalli, and then MC Mehta versus Union of India case. In fact, in this case earlier Supreme Court has banned the mining in this region, but then subsequently there were certain exceptions given. Okay, so you can quote this case, means this is a very much important jurisprudence, especially in cases related to environment development. Okay, and certain it established certain benchmarks in environmental conservation. So keep this in mind. Now we will see as to the importance of the question or what kind of question can be asked. Okay, so this was a very interesting question asked in UPSC prelims 2017. I will read the question for you. In India, the Himalayas are spread over 5 states only. Okay. Second statement is Western Ghats are spread over 5 states only. Then Pulicat Lake is spread over 2 states only. So you might have been listening to various mentors who say that generally only a statement is considered to be very much exclusive, so it is generally wrong in UPSC. So see here the type of question, how UPSC is evolving. So in India, the Himalayas are spread over 5 states is basically wrong. It is spread over around, I think, 10 to 12 states. Okay, over all the northern belt and the northeast various districts also, various states also come under this. Okay, so this statement is basically wrong. The second statement is Western Ghats are spread over 5 states only. It is basically 6 states. I think if you see Western Ghats are spread like this. Okay, so Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, Goa and Tamil Nadu. Okay, so this statement is also wrong. Now Pulicat Lake is spread over 2 states only. So this statement is basically true. If you see like this, so Pulicat Lake is here and Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu both share its border. Okay, it is majorly in Andhra Pradesh. Around 90% of the lake lies in Andhra Pradesh. So statement 3 is only correct. So in this way also it can be asked about Aravalli range. Okay, so there you can take cues from this question. Okay, so this was all about the Aravalli debate. Try to remember the major Aravallis related static issues which can be asked. Okay. So now we will start with the second main news, which is related to PESA. Okay, so it is basically that 30th anniversary of PESA, Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act. So as the name, Panchayat's extension to scheduled areas. So earlier there were scheduled areas under Article 244 of the Constitution, to which directly the 73rd constitutional amendment were not applied. 73rd constitutional amendment related to panchayats. So it was extended to these scheduled areas also through PESA Act 1996. So this is the act basically, and its 30th anniversary is being celebrated. So in this context, this question is being given. Okay, so you can attempt relate this topic with GS2 from various provisions of the constitution or federal structure, because at certain times what happens is that certain states have certain other type of powers related to themselves, their own governance. So it is also said that certain times it lead to asymmetric federalism. Okay, certain states have certain powers. So in that case also you can try to link. Okay, so now basically we will understand what it does. Okay, what does the PESA Act does? So the PESA Act extends the Panchayati Raj institutions to the tribal dominate 5th scheduled areas. Okay, so there are two kind of areas. One is 5th schedule and then the other is 6th schedule areas. So these 10 states, okay, when it was earlier, means when it was extended, then Telangana was not formed. So there were only 9 states earlier. Now there are 10 states in 5th schedule, and in 6th schedule there are 4 states. Okay, ATMM, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram. Okay, so the PESA Act extends the Panchayati Raj institutions to the 5th schedule areas. Please remember, both are, this 5th schedule and 6th schedule both are being done under 244. 244 at this clause 1 is related to 5th schedule, and 244 clause 2 is related to 6th schedule. Okay, so here there is basically it is related to tribal advisory councils. Okay, these kind of things. There are basically more autonomy in 6th schedule areas as compared to the 5th schedule areas. Okay, so keep this fact in mind, and this PESA Act just extends it to the 5th schedule areas to establish local governance structures at the village, block and district levels. Okay, so 3-tier structure is being established through PESA. Okay, but what are these states? These states are Andhra, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal, Jharkhand, MP, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan and Telangana. Okay, so try to remember these states. I also have a map. It is quite old, but it will do your work. So try to remember in this manner, that in west which states are there, or in north which state is there. Okay, which states are not there. So try to remember, when you remember I say G20 countries also. So try to remember that in South America which countries, North America which countries, Europe, Middle East, then Russia, China, India. In this way you can remember easily. So just try to remember Rajasthan, Gujarat is there, MP, Maharashtra is there, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Jharkhand is there, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana is there. Okay, Telangana is also there, and then Himachal Pradesh is there. So these 10 states are basically under the 5th scheduled areas. Okay, so the PESA Act extends the Panchayati Raj institutions machinery in these areas as well. Okay, they have greater autonomy, greater powers. Okay, now we will see what are the salient features of the PESA Act. Basically, it is more empowering to the Gram Sabha. Okay, so they have more stake. Gram Sabha members have more stake to take decisions in certain aspects. Okay, so this is it. Mandatory consent of Gram Sabha for local resource management. So if there are local resources, then who will take, if you want to manage the resources of that particular place or of that tribal area. So Gram Sabha's mandatory consent is being required. Okay, especially related to land acquisition, development projects, minor forest produce. Okay, minor forest produce. Sometime it has also been asked in the question, okay, what is being considered as minor forest produce or not. Minor minerals, not in major minerals, minor minerals. Try to remember these points, okay. Try to pick that where questions can confuse you, okay. Minor forest produce and minor minerals, mandatory consent of Gram Sabha is required, okay. Now, Gram Sabhas and Panchayats can prohibit or regulate the sale and consumption of any intoxicant. Okay, so if there are certain kinds of liquors or drugs which is being sold on, so Gram Sabha and Panchayat itself can prohibit or regulate their sale, okay, or consumption. Land protection, alienation, village market management, money lending control, okay. So these kind of extraordinary powers are there with the Gram Sabhas. Next, preservation of culture. So traditional governance systems, customary laws and cultural identity of tribals communities needs to be preserved. Means the main aim is also preservation of culture. So if a question is asked that what are the main aim or objective of PESA and preservation of culture, you might see that it is just related to governance aspect and it has got nothing to do with culture. So it is not that way. Because of their uniqueness, this PESA is being applied, okay, in different form. So they have a specific provisions. Now, legal supremacy, PESA overrides standard constitutional rules and state legislature laws. Means normal state legislature rules and constitutional rules does not directly apply to these places, okay, all these 10 states, 5th schedule places, okay. Keep this in mind, okay. These are very important. Now what are the initiatives which has been taken to strengthen the PESA Act? Just keep in mind PESA GPDP, okay. So nowadays this Gram Panchayat development plan is very much famous. You can use in other answers also, aspirational district or integration of planning from village to district level. So Gram Panchayat development program, okay. So this is a initiative for monitoring the development aspects. Next is institutional support. So a dedicated PESA cell has been established which establishes center of excellence in central universities, okay. So institutional support is being given to PESA, a strengthening of PESA, okay. Then linguistic outreach, training manuals have been translated into regional languages. So at times what the major problems which tribals faces, especially in social impact assessment or environmental impact assessment also, is that many a times things are written in English, okay, or sometimes even in Hindi, and which the tribals are not able to understand. So it is being said that when these their assessment is being done or their signs are being taken, they are just on paper sign, okay. They rarely understand what is written on the paper and they just sign or use their thumb impression. So what is being done to strengthen their voice? Linguistic outreach. Training manuals have been translated into regional languages, Telugu, Marathi, and tribal languages also, Santhali, Gondi, Bhili, and Mundari, okay. Recently you might have seen that the translation of the constitution in Santhali language was also published. So try to link all these aspects, okay. This you can use. Now we will see a previous year question which has been asked from this same theme, okay. Very easy question basically. Under which schedule of the Constitution of India can the transfer of tribal land to private parties for mining be declared null and void? Okay. The options are 3rd schedule, 5th schedule, 9th schedule, and 12th schedule, okay. So earlier one question sometimes in a gap of 2 years was asked related to schedule. Nowadays it has also become less. 3rd schedule you might know it is related to oath and all. 5th schedule I already told you it is related to administration of scheduled areas, okay. Then 9th schedule, you know that if a law is kept in 9th schedule, earlier it was not to be challenged. But after case 1 and the Bharti case and basic structure of the constitution, it became that it can be challenged, okay. Then 10th schedule also you might be knowing it is related to anti-defection. 12th schedule is related to municipalities, okay. So the answer is 5th schedule. So just a very basic question, okay. So let us now start with the third main news, which is related to a standing committee report on this act, okay. So there is a act, right to fair compensation and transparency in Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. Okay, so basically this is a Land Acquisition Resettlement Act, you can say. So a report has been released by Parliamentary Standing Committee, okay, on whether the act has been able to fulfill its desired objectives or not, what are the challenges in this act. Okay, so we will be studying that based on this report. Okay, so you can link it with GS paper 3, mobilization of resources, inclusive growth, because it is related to the land acquisition and it becomes certain times challenging because it may lead to displacement of tribal people. Okay, then growth, infrastructure building and land reforms. So it has got a multiple coverage. Earlier a question has also been asked based on this act itself. Okay, so try to understand first what this act is all about. Okay, so first we will see the report. Okay, so I have already said you that report has been released by Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, which evaluates its implementation. Okay, right to fair compensation and transparency in Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. So this act was brought in 2013. Okay, earlier there was a Land Acquisition Act of 1894, which was very old. Okay, we will try to understand, see just some of its provisions in brief. Okay, about this act. This act is not that important because it has been already done away with. Now this act is working. So actually what happened was that the compensation given to people who were being displaced because of, say, government wants to make a bridge, government wants to make a road, a railways, so they used to acquire land. So there were certain problems in this aspect. Okay, so that is why this act was brought. So what is the market value? Market value, average value of 50% of the highest value transaction registered in the last 3 years. Okay, then multiplying factor was introduced from 1 to 2. Okay, solatium is basically compensation. So compensation was now given as 100% after multiplying factor. Okay, total compensation 2 to 4 times the market value. Now try to remember, this is a very important point. 2 times for urban land and 2 to 4 times for rural land. Okay, so this is how compensation was increased. Now enforceability of R&R, resettlement and rehabilitation. Earlier it was not binding. This act made it binding. Okay, earlier what used to happen, that compensation was given only to the land losers. Okay, so if I am a agricultural laborer but I don't own any land, so I won't be compensated because of this act, Land Acquisition Act of 1894. But the 2013 Act introduced a provision that land losers, laborers and artisans will also be compensated. Those who are dependent on the land as sole there, so because of their livelihood, they will also be compensated. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Now some other provisions we will see, that employment. Employment, earlier there was no provisions, but LAR Act introduces certain statutory provisions, okay, for related to employment. Then land for land, essential for irrigation project. Okay, earlier means if there is intercropping irrigated land, so it is generally not acquired except in very serious or circumstances. Okay, so keep this word in mind. Intercropped, या multi-cropped irrigated land. Okay, so these are generally not acquired under LAR Act. Okay, now payment of compensation, earlier it was not necessary before disposition, now it is necessary before disposition. Okay, and it also introduces certain time limit related to this. Okay, in 18 months you should do this. So this is basically the Land Acquisition, Resettlement and Rehabilitation Act 2013. There are also other provisions such as the role of or the consent of landowners has to be taken. If it is a PPP project, then around 70% of the landowners should abide by it. If it is a private project, then around 80% of the landowners should abide by it. Okay, keep these things in mind. Moreover, if a land remains unutilized, say the land has been acquired but it remains unutilized for 5 years, then after 5 years the land has to be given back to the original owners. So the original owners will have a claim, or they will be given back, the land will be given back to the original owners if for 5 years it remains unutilized. Okay, so keep these things in mind. These are very important things. Moreover, social impact assessment has also been mandatorily enforced through LARR Act 2013. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Okay, now we will see that what the committee has seen and what it has recommended. Okay, we will just have some keywords from here, okay, for writing our answers. Okay, so if a question is asked, and it covers multiple dimensions. If a question is asked about PESA implementation, okay, Forest Rights Act implementation, or this Act 2013 implementation, everywhere you can use these committee recommendations. Okay, because it is all inclusive. It is very much broad in its analysis. Okay, so the first issue is faulty implementation in scheduled areas. So just now I said you scheduled areas is related to 5th schedule and 6th schedule, those 10 states, and then Assam, Tripura, Mizoram, Meghalaya. So it has seen that there are violations which occurs despite statutory safeguards, including land undervaluation, superficial Gram Sabha consultation, and exclusion of vulnerable groups. Okay, so it is not being properly implemented. Land are being undervalued. So what the tribals will get, or what these people, especially in the scheduled areas. I already told you they have various issues related to language barriers, their awareness. Okay, so this implementation is faulty. So what is the committee recommendation? It said that make the consent mandatory for all land acquisition. Now see, these kind of recommendations may sound very strict, but if you write that the Standing Committee of Panchayati Raj and Rural Development has proposed mandatory consent, so you will get edge. Okay, you will get extra half marks. Okay, to empower it to veto proposals which are contrary. If the proposals or if the land acquisitions are contrary to the local development plans, so they should be allowed, the Gram Sabha should be allowed even to veto that proposal. Okay, so this is the first. Second, non-compliance with PESA rules. I already said you PESA rules means it has given more powers to the Gram Sabha to govern themselves. Okay, so it is non-compliance with PESA rules. Provisions of the PESA regarding consultations are not being followed strictly. So what it has said, that the LAR Act should be aligned with PESA. Okay, keep these things in mind. These are very good examples. Align the LAR Act with PESA. Okay, the LAR Act should be aligned with PESA so that the acquisitions can be proper. Okay, now violation of Forest Right Act. Okay, forest land is acquired without settling rights, means rights are not settled. Means the rights of whose? The person who are living there, mainly tribals, those who live in forest, their rights are not settled and the forest land is acquired. So this is a very problematic area. Now what is it is telling? Integration of LAR and FRA. We have seen upside integration of LAR with PESA. Here it says integration of LAR with FRA. Loss of customary forest rights must be treated as economic displacement requiring full rehabilitation. Means if there is loss of forest rights or customary forest rights which the tribals has been using for ages, they should be treated as economic displacement. Okay, economic displacement requiring full rehabilitation, and full rehabilitation in those cases should be done. Then superficial assessment. I already told you that at certain times SIA has been brought in through this act, LAR Act, in certain cases, in mostly cases until and unless it calls for urgent acquisition. Okay, so it has seen, the Parliamentary Standing Committee has witnessed that social and environment impact assessment are sometimes carried out as formalities and the reports are pre-designed. Okay, means the reports are not assessed on land. Okay, it is not based correctly. Okay, their reports are pre-designed to favor acquisition, means they are made in such a way that the acquisition should be favored. And what should be done, the real picture should be shown in these kind of assessments. Okay, so now what is the committee recommendation? A strict guidelines adherence. The Department of Land Resource must ensure that these are followed effectively. Okay, now failure of National Monitoring Committee. Now it says that the National Monitoring Committee, which was sought to be established under this act, it has failed to quell issues in various projects such as Ken Betwa link, Pola Baram. Here only two are mentioned. It said, the report also said these related to Great Nicobar project or the projects in Lakshadweep. So that it has failed to quell the discontent. So the discontent is rising. You might have also seen, just in case of Aravallis also, there was a lot of discontent. So those monitoring committees or those assessments which are being done to take them into means positive sides, they are not being enough. They are not enough to quell this discontent. Now what is said, it asks for basin-wide assessment. Means projects must start with a single integrated basin-to-basin social impact assessment. Okay, and it also calls for NMC strengthening. Structurally, it should be strengthened. Okay, land classification manipulation. Okay, just like you might have heard the term greenwashing or something like that. Okay, so in that case only, greenfield land or rural land is shown as reclassified as urban land or brownfield land, because the acquisition becomes easy, isn't it? If a land is shown as brownfield, means earlier a work has been done on it, or the project is being shown that earlier a project has been carried on this land, or it is urban land, so it is not leading to a lot of issues, or it doesn't come under various acts, so the compliance becomes easy. So land classification is being manipulated. What is being done? Rural or greenfield areas are being covered as urban areas or brownfield areas to reduce compensation liabilities. So the compensation is also reduced. Less money is being paid to the person who is residing there. So it is telling that central monitoring of classification should be there. A grievance redressal committee should also be there to look into these cases. Now, failure on the part of states and duties to establish land acquisition, rehabilitation and resettlement authority. So certain states has failed to create this authority which was required under LARR Act. Okay, so it said that Ministry of Rural Development to coordinate with state government authorities so as to operationalize these authorities. Okay, so just keep these things in mind. What are the various kind of problems which is acting as a hindrance in effective implementation of LARR Act or PESA Act? Okay, so try to use these kind of keywords: land classification, manipulation, okay, superficial assessments, non-compliance with PESA rules, okay, then integration, codified consent, vetoing the consent, the more power, basin-wide assessment. Try to use these kind of keywords in your answer. You will get, definitely you will get more marks. Okay, or even in introduction you can write that a standing committee has showed the dismal performance in certain aspects of implementation of this act. So you can give a very good introduction also if you read this. Okay, now we will see a question which has been asked on the same lines. Okay, so this is a question of 2014. The act was passed in 2013. Okay, so the right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013 has come into effect from 1st January 2014. It already said you that what has happened. It is already telling you the development. Now it is asking you what are the key issues which would get addressed with the act in this place. Key issues which is it is addressing. Addressed. Okay. And what implications would it have on industrialization and agriculture in India? So you can start directly that the earlier Land Acquisition Act 1894 has been done away with, and this has been brought in to usher in reforms related to land acquisition and provide for rightful compensation, isn't it? And then you can say some provisions, you can mention 1-2 provisions, as already said, that consent is 70% for this sector for PPP projects, then for 80% for this project, social impact assessment has been added, isn't it? All these some features you can add. Okay, now what are the key issues which would get addressed? So you have to mention some of the issues which would get addressed. Okay, so what are those issues? Compensation, transparency, social impact, environmental impact assessment. Try to incorporate those keywords which are already in the provisions, that these issues can get addressed. Okay, even the industry would get developed because now they have a fair picture, isn't it? Rehabilitation and resettlement would be taken care of properly, isn't it? So these kind of you can address. Now, what implications would it have on industrialization and agriculture? Isn't it? They are asking you to analyze. Means there might have been certain concerns as well, certain positive, then certain negative. So positive impact also can be there on industrialization and agriculture, isn't it? It will become easy. There will be no much problem. Cascading effect would not be there. And agriculture, there can be issues that agriculture land may be diverted to some other purposes, isn't it? So these kind of things you have to write. Okay, some positive, some negative, and then you can say that it is in a positive direction. But certain experts also say this: if it is implemented in right spirit, it will have multiplier effect. Okay, so in this way, these topics are being covered. Okay. Now let us start with the fourth main news. The fourth main news is ISRO has launched or placed the Bluebird Block 2 satellite, means ISRO's LVM-3 M6 has placed a satellite Bluebird Block 2 in LEO. So this is the main development here. Okay, it can be related to the GS paper 3 achievements of Indians in science and technology, or development in normal cases in science or space missions related keywords from the syllabus. Okay, so first we will try to understand the basic development about what has happened. Okay. So only 2 to 3 things you need to remember in this article. The first is LVM M6 is the 6th operational flight of LVM-3. LVM-3's 6th operational flight is M6. Okay, and the third dedicated commercial mission to launch the Bluebird Block 2 satellite. Okay, so here you should not go into very much detail, just you should know about LVM-3 and the Bluebird satellite. Okay, and it has been launched from Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. Okay, and it is a part of commercial agreement between New Space, NSIL and AST, a US based company. Okay, so NSIL plus AST. Okay, this is the mission is a part of both of these companies. Okay, what is NSIL? You should know. It has been incorporated in 2019 as a wholly 100% owned government company under Department of Space. Okay, this you should remember. And NSIL is the commercial arm of ISRO. Okay, so in a space, NSIL, sometimes these questions can be asked that try to differentiate, or what is the work of NSIL and what is the work of in a space. Okay, so you should be very clear with these objectives. Often what UPSC will do, that the objective of in a space will be generally given in NSIL or the NSIL in inner space. Okay, so even if you remember one, that what is NSIL, it is a wholly owned government company under Department of Space, and it is the commercial arm of ISRO. Generally they will replace these words. Okay, so try to remember this. Okay, so this is the main development. Now we will try to understand what is Bluebird Block 2. Okay, so just it is a part of LEO. LEO means low Earth orbit constellation. Okay, it provides mobile connectivity through satellites. It enables 4G and 5G voice and video calls, streaming and data. Okay, so generally you will just remember here two things: USA mobile network or satellite network communication. Okay, try to remember only these 2 to 3 keywords. Now what is LEO? Low Earth orbit is a orbit relatively close to Earth surface. Okay, it is very close to Earth surface with an altitude of around 160 to 1000 kilometer, useful for satellite imaging. Okay, so generally LEO, low Earth orbit, is being used for satellite imaging. Okay, so this is also Bluebird is also being placed in LEO only. Okay, so this you should remember. Now key features: phased array, making it the largest commercial communication and satellite. Okay, it is the heaviest payload. Okay, to be launched by LVM-3. So this try to remember means 6100 kg has been launched by LVM-3. This is launch vehicle Mark 3. Okay. Now we will understand what is important from our perspective about ISRO's LVM-3 launch vehicle, because a similar question has been asked. Generally, UPSC asks difference between PSLV and GSLV, or which vehicle has been used to launch which kind of satellites or the missions. Suppose Chandrayaan-1 has been used to launch was launched by this mission, then GSLV has been used to launch Chandrayaan-2, Chandrayaan-3. Okay, so these kind of things will be asked. Okay, this is a 4 stage, this is 3 stage. So these kind of basic things you should remember, especially in science and tech. 1 to 2 questions will be asked from the concepts. Okay, and on the basis of that you may be able to easily eliminate. Okay, so we will understand what is ISRO's LVM-3 launch vehicle. So it comprises 2 solid strap-on motors, a liquid core stage and a cryogenic stage. So there are 3 stages. Okay, and it can lift mass of 640 tons, payload capability of 4200 kg. These are very important. It may sound for you too difficult to remember, but then try to make a table of all these vehicles. Okay, SSLV, PSLV, GSLV, and then write those important points over here and then try to mug up those facts, or you can make them and then keep it for just before 8 to 10 days before the examinations. You should know what you are going to by heart or which kind of questions can be asked. Okay, so what is basically, it places satellites in geosynchronous transfer orbit. Okay, geosynchronous, geo means earth, synchronous means you can say continuity or inline. Okay, so if this is earth, okay, I will make this picture here. So if suppose this is earth and it is a satellite, so if earth moves, so it also moves and it also completes its rotation in 24 hours itself. So since it both moves together, so it is considered to be in sync with, suppose this is earth, okay, and this is the satellite, and this is moving, so it is in sync with earth. This is earth, this is the satellite, so it is in sync with earth. So it is known as geosynchronous. So generally this is being used to put satellites in geosynchronous orbits. Geosynchronous orbits are around 35,700 kilometers, okay, or 36,000 kilometers. Okay, but then the launch vehicle doesn't directly place. Generally, it doesn't directly place in that orbit itself. There is a geosynchronous transfer orbit. So first, suppose this is the geosynchronous orbit. Okay, geosynchronous orbit is here, and here it is being placed. But then suppose for just for simplification, it first places in GTO and then it places in GSO, geosynchronous orbit. Okay, so GTO is an elliptical orbit with an altitude around 37,000 km for transferring a spacecraft to geosynchronous. So from here, then geosynchronous orbit, in that it is being transferred. Okay, so previous missions for LVM-3 is Chandrayaan-2, Chandrayaan-3, Bluebird mission. Okay, so these are the basic important points. Now we will see one PYQ which has been asked in 2018. The question is, with reference to India's satellite launch vehicles, consider the following statement. First statement: PSLVs launch the satellites useful for Earth resources monitoring, whereas GSLVs are designed to mainly to launch communication satellites. Okay, this is the first. Second is, satellites launched by PSLV appear to remain permanently fixed. So, see, these are generally polar satellite launch vehicles. Okay, they do not remain permanently fixed in the same position to the sky as viewed from the particular location on Earth. This I have explained. This is being done through GSLV. Okay, when they are launched in geosynchronous orbits. Okay, so second statement is basically wrong. Now see, GSLV Mach 3 is a 4-stage launch vehicle with the first and third stage using solid and the second and fourth stage using liquid. The statement is true for PSLV, and UPSC has very properly, if you don't read between the lines, it has just messed up the, just misplaced this GSLV. Okay, so this is also wrong. So the answer is 1 only. Okay, PSLV is launched for Earth resources. Basically, it is used for remote sensing purposes. Okay. Now we will see place in news called Nigeria. Okay. So what has happened is that US has launched powerful strikes against Islamic State in Nigeria. So generally, we have witnessed that of late, the topic or the places which are in news because of certain international relations or war or conflicts, those regions are generally asked in match the following, and those number of questions has generally increased. Okay, nowadays you might have seen that the questions related to geography has also seen means it has also been rising. Okay, so just you have to remember where Nigeria is located. You can see Nigeria is located in the West Africa. Okay, so this is the West Africa, isn't it? So here Nigeria is located and it opens into Atlantic Ocean. This you should remember. And then what has happened? US has launched Islamic strikes. This is the main important thing you should remember. Okay, now bordering countries, Niger is in north. You can see Niger is in north, then Chad and Cameroon in east and Benin in west. Okay, bordering water bodies, Gulf of Guinea in the Atlantic Ocean. So Gulf of Guinea, you should remember Gulf of Guinea. Okay, this is Gulf of Guinea. Vegetation is savanna and it also forms a part of Sahel region. Okay, so there can be chances that UPSC can give you all these details and ask you to identify the country. Okay, that USA has launched powerful strikes against a country which is situated in the Western Africa, and then it can give you these name of the countries as options, and then you have to recognize. Okay, it is based in Sahel region. Okay, Lake Chad is located. So these kind of things you should remember. Okay, so just have an outlook. We will move towards the quick updates. Okay, quick updates are basically important because certain words or certain keywords which are being seen in news are asked as a question. Okay, sometimes around 6 to 8 questions in that form is being asked. Certain facility is being launched. Certain things are being found in certain chemicals are being found in certain food items. So these kind of questions, or certain agreement has been done with a particular country. So in that context, these quick updates are very essential. So we will move towards the first quick update, and the first quick update is related to Great Indian Bustard. So basically, Supreme Court has tightened safeguards for protecting Great Indian Bustards. Okay, so in this context, we are studying this Great Indian Bustard. Okay, so first we should know some of the basic facts. Nowadays, related to a species in news, certain very specific type of questions is being also asked. What does it feed on? What is its behavior? Okay, so feeding and behavior are being most focused on these days by UPSC when a species is asked, and obviously the protection status is also very important. So we will know Great Indian Bustard. It is basically, its habitat is grassland and semi-arid regions. So grassland and semi-arid regions, basically it is found in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Okay, Rajasthan and Gujarat, basically remember. But if a question is asked that it is found absent in Maharashtra, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, so no, Maharashtra, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh also it is found. Maharashtra, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. Okay, try to remember in form of map. Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, okay, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh also it is found. Okay, characteristics, it feeds on grass seeds. Okay, its habitat is grassland, so it feeds on grass seeds. Insects like grasshoppers and beetles, and sometimes a small rodents and reptiles also. Okay, so rodents and reptiles also it feeds upon. So it is herbivorous as well as carnivorous. So try to remember all these kind of words, because certain time it is asked all fishes are carnivorous. These kind of statements are being used by UPSC. Okay, so you have to become more smart. Okay, that where UPSC is venturing, or what kind of questions or a statement can be generated. Okay. Then threats, habitat loss, basically due to the electricity lines. Okay, so the electricity lines without wiring which are being used without proper insulation. So it is the main reason for their habitat loss or threatening of the species. Okay, its protection status, you can see the level of protection it is enjoying because of its minuscule population. Okay, IUCN critically endangered, Wildlife Protection Act also Schedule 1, CITES also Appendix 1. Okay, and it is also one of the species for recovery program under integrated development of wildlife habitats. So here 2022 species are there around. So you have to focus on these species also. Many a times what happens is that from these species itself UPSC makes certain questions. Okay, so keep this in mind. Now we will move towards the next quick updates, which is electoral trust. Electoral trust, you might have seen nowadays all the major newspapers, the Hindu, Indian Express, flooded with articles related to political funding. Okay, political funding, that it is fair or not fair, why a political party is getting more political funding than the others, should there be a mechanism. Certain writers have also recommended that there should be an IPL model of political funding. So this is becoming a major news these days. So recently Election Commission of India released annual report of contribution released by the trust and donations given to political parties for 2024-2025, and this is why this electoral trust has come in news. Okay, we will have some brief feature of electoral trust. Okay, so what is electoral trust scheme? Basically it provides for establishing electoral trusts. Okay, so companies which are established under 25th section of the Companies Act, they can establish electoral trust. Okay, then what is its mandate? Its mandate is it must distribute 95% of the contribution should go towards the registered political parties. Means if a company gets suppose 200 rupees, so 190 rupees should go towards the registered political parties, and 5%, how much is 5% of 200? 10 rupees can be kept for administrative expenses. Okay, so keep this in mind, 95%. Okay, then regulation is required to report, means it is required to report to Election Commission contributions from individuals and companies, and are governed by the Income Tax Act. So if a question is asked, electoral trusts are governed under or regulated under, and the option is given Income Tax Act, Companies Act, you should go for both are correct. Okay, now disclosure, donors and amounts must be mandatorily reported, ensuring traceability. Okay, now the question from here it can be picked, that who may receive contribution and shall not accept contributions. Means electoral trust, who can contribute and who cannot contribute. Okay, so an individual who is a citizen of India, a company registered in India, a firm resident in India, Hindu undivided family Indian residents, and association of families Indian residents. So basically what has happened is that recently, if you see, the electoral bond scheme has been done away with because of the Supreme Court judgment, isn't it? So this electoral trust process has been used for funding of the political parties, and in that aspect itself Election Commission of India has given its annual report. So who can contribute in it? Generally you can see that resident Indians, company registered in India, these can contribute. Who cannot? Who is not a citizen, foreign entity, other electoral trust who are approved under electoral trust scheme, contributions without PAN, Without PAN cannot, you can contribute. Try to remember this. PAN you have to give. NRIs without a passport number, they cannot contribute. Okay, so keep these things. Generally questions are being asked on this aspect, the governance aspect, or who are the beneficiary, who are the contributors. Okay. Now we will move towards the next news, which is related to International Civil Aviation Organization. What is the context? The context is India has been re-elected to ICAO Council for 2025-2028. Okay, earlier India was also vice president of this council. Now it has been elected to the presidents. Okay, so now ICAO Council, you might have seen that nowadays due to Indigo also and due to Ahmedabad Air India crash also, this sector has become more in news. Okay, it's a regulation being talked about. So sometimes they may not ask about Indian Civil Aviation Ministry or the regulation related to that. They may ask about this. Okay, so just in brief, what is the council? It is a governing body responsible for secretariat oversight. Mainly it is the work of governing council. Okay, it is a governing body. It comprises 36 members. So ICA council has 36 members. Total members are 193. So these members select them. Okay, and this serves as governing body for a 3-year term. Okay, 3-year term. Now, what is ICAO? So ICAO is basically, it was established in 1944 under the Chicago Convention. You should remember these words. A specialized UN agency, Chicago Convention. These two words you should remember. India is also a founding member of ICAO. It coordinates global standards. So basically it is related to regulating, coordinating, okay, or how air traffic is being seen. So these kind of things are being done through this organization. Very important organization from prelims point of view. Okay. Now we will see Mubarak Al Kabir port. Okay. So at certain times what happens that in ancient India also certain Pumpuhar port or these kind of Mujiris port are being asked. In that aspect, Mubarak Al Kabir port or the important ports, you might have seen that nowadays too many countries are fighting for ports access to be strategically located. You know, the issues related to Bangladesh also, that there were certain apprehensions that Bangladesh was asked for a island, isn't it, to establish certain US base, but it was not given, and that led to a lot of issues. Okay, so these kind of ports means match the following, it can be asked. Okay, so just try to remember them in short. Basically just 1 to 2 important words from it. Kuwait signed an agreement with China to build Mubarak Al Kabir port. So Mubarak Al Kabir port is in Kuwait. It has signed agreement with China, means it is a part of BRI mainly, Belt and Road Initiative. Okay, this must, its location is Bobian Island, Kuwait. Aim, it will enhance regional trade and transportation. General point. Operationalization, it will happen by 26. It is a part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Okay, what is Belt and Road Initiative? You already might be knowing that it has 2 components: Silk Road Economic Belt and Maritime Silk Road. Okay, so Silk Road, it passes through Middle East, Europe and Central Asia and Asia, the road and bridges, and then the Maritime Silk Road, it passes through East Asia, Southeast Asia, Middle East and Africa. Okay, so here just remember these 2 words. Bobian Island, Kuwait, it has signed with China and it is a part of Belt and Road Initiative. This much you should remember. Now we will move towards the next topic. Next topic is related to PM Setu. Actually what has happened is that Ministry of Skill and Development has invited certain other industries to participate in PM Setu scheme. Okay, nowadays you might be knowing that PM Kausal Vikas Yojana is also in news because of a CAG report. Okay, that there were certain issues in the transfer of money related to abc@gmail.com or 11111111 was used as an account number, and large amount of money they are being transferred to same account or same account multiple persons. Okay, so in this case the other schemes may also be asked related to that, and this is a very important scheme. Okay, so just remember some of the keywords. Its full form is a skilling and employability transformation through upgradation of ITIs. Okay, ITIs. Now it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Ministry, already I said you, skill development and entrepreneurship. The scheme is structured into two components. It has two components: upgradation of ITIs and then capacity augmentation of 5 national skill training institutes. Okay, and then setting up of 5 national centers of excellence. Okay, now comes the important point. Generally, how it is being funded, how it is being managed. Okay, so management is done by a special purpose vehicle partnership, 50% industry leaders and 49% of the government. This remember, 51% industry and 49% by the government through a special purpose vehicle. One more unique thing for this is that co-financing to extent of 50% of central share, means the central shares 50% can be is to be funded by Asian Development Bank and World Bank. Okay, so I think around 6,000 crore has also been allocated to this scheme. So keep this in your mind. Okay, generally the ministry you might be knowing because it is related to a skill. Setu full form, remember the full form of Setu, then the ministry, and then this funding pattern. Okay, all other things you will be able to recall. Now there is a news related to Kimberley process. Okay, so the in this Kimberley process, India has assumed the chairpersonship from 1st Jan 2026. Kimberley process, India has assumed the chairpersonship. Okay, so we will just have understand what is it. It is a tripartite initiative involving government, international diamond industry and civil aviation. So civil society. Okay, so civil society is there, government is there, and international diamond industry is there. So these three organizations are there. So that is why it is known as tripartite initiative, aimed at preventing the trade in conflict diamonds. Means they just have a single aim, suppose, to prevent the trade in conflict diamond. And now what are conflict diamond? Basically, conflict diamond is also known as blood diamond. Okay. Basically, it is that use of diamond money to fund war, insurgency, violence, crime, transnational crimes. These are basically known as blood diamonds. Means the money of the diamond is used to fund blood or conflicts. Okay. Fund blood means taking away the life of some person or in a negative manner. Okay. So conflict diamonds are rough diamonds used by rebel movements or their allies to fund armed conflicts aimed at undermining the legitimate governments. Okay. So it has total members are 60, including India and European Union, and these participants account for 99% of the global rough diamond trade. Okay. Rigorous certification. Basically, it is a Kimberley process has basically a certification process. Okay, and it keeps conflict diamonds out of the international market. Means if you have a certain certification, suppose that the silver or gold has a certain certification of BIS. Okay, so B makes sure that only BIS gold coin are sold in the market. So the other kind of gold which comes into the market, they will find it very difficult to be sold. So in that way itself, this is just a rigorous certification. So the diamonds are being certified. So it will make the conflict diamonds go out of the market. Okay, so they cannot be properly used in the market. This is what is known as this conflict diamonds. Or if a question is asked, what is Kimberley process related to? It will give you too many options that it is used to prepare sodium hydroxide or sodium bicarbonate, something like that. So just remember Kimberley process is related to diamond. Okay, rough diamonds. Now we will go towards the last quick updates. It is related to ghost pairing. Okay, so basically Saathi and Mehti have banned users, WhatsApp users especially, that there is a type of campaign which is known as ghost pairing. Means you don't know who is being paired with your WhatsApp device. So WhatsApp has this feature of linked devices, isn't it? And you might be able to use WhatsApp on your PC, iPad, laptop, multiple places because of this linked devices feature. So the main issue which is happening is that the person or the hacker is just, they will send you some link or some QR code, ki, hi, please see this my photo, and then you accidentally use that code and you give access of your WhatsApp to the other person. Normally also, if you see, if you scan a code on your iPad whenever you are logging in for WhatsApp, then you give access, then it becomes usable on that device also. So just how does it work? The attack exploits WhatsApp device linking feature. Victims receive deceptive messages like, hi, check this photo. So don't check that photo if it is coming from an unknown number, which initiates the account compromise. Okay, and once linked, the attacker's device gains full access as a hidden trusted device. So you will never know that that device is using your WhatsApp and you are using. And what is the way to protect yourself from it? So go to the linked devices, check your phone, iPhone or laptop or iPad, and then remove all the linked devices which you are suspicious about. Okay, so this is basically known as ghost pairing. Okay, so this was all from my side, and to further read and remain updated with the current affairs, you can visit Digital Current Affairs of Vision IAS, wherein very up-to-date details of news today or monthly magazines, okay, or weekly, each and everything is being provided. Okay, so thank you very much. Have a good day.